Hey guys, today we are going to be comparing two iPhones, the iPhone SE and the iPhone XR. Oh, and we'll also be checking out some Spigen cases, but let's get to that later. Alright, so the iPhone XR is the last iPhone to have a single rear camera before the iPhone SE, but let's not forget that this is an older model that uses the A12 Bionic chip, whereas the iPhone SE uses the A13 Bionic chip.
The iPhone SE looks like the older iPhone 8, but it does have the new camera features that you get in the iPhone 11. For example, the iPhone XR doesn't have quick take and you can't swipe up to access more features. If you switch to video, you can also alternate between 4K or 1080p, or 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, but this cannot be done with the XR. But if you put all those aside, both phones come with a 12MP rear camera with f1.8 aperture and a 7MP front camera with f2.2 aperture. Alright, let's get to the photo samples. I can't really tell the difference at first glance, but when I look closely, I realized that the XR actually captures more in a picture, and that's really not surprising since its lens is slightly bigger than the SE. In some photos, you'll also notice redder tints like this one. The guy has a slightly redder skin tone on the XR, but if you look at the overall color of this picture, the XR offers slightly more vibrance. Now in this picture, the iPhone SE actually produced sharper and brighter results, but the XR is still more vibrant. That's not always the case though. Check out this one. The colors are more pleasant in this picture taken by the iPhone SE, and if we zoom in on the sign, you realize the XR picture looks grainier at the edges of the signboard. The SE once again has nicer colors in this picture and is sharper too, and if we look at the sky, the highlights are more prominent on the iPhone SE, while the XR toned things down. This should be because the SE has the second generation Smart HDR, while the XR uses the older version. Both iPhones also support up to 5 times digital zoom, and honestly there's not much difference. Looking at the basket in these pictures, I noticed a slight red tint on the XR, and if we take a look at the next photo, the iPhone SE has slightly better sharpness. Moving on to this picture, both phones are great at the natural bokeh effect, but if you really squint your eyes and stare at them, you'll notice the details on the petals are more apparent on the iPhone SE. The greens are also more natural on the SE, while it looks slightly saturated on the XR. When I turn on the portrait mode, I notice both devices are alright at edge detection, but if you zoom in, then you'll notice the flaws and the blurriness at some parts. Interestingly, portrait shots on the iPhone SE is much sharper than the iPhone XR. And even though I don't usually use the portrait effects, I do want to point out that the iPhone SE has 6, while the XR only has 3. Sadly, both are unable to detect non-humans as subjects. Just like its rear camera, the 7MP lens on the front also captures brighter pictures on the iPhone SE. The clarity is slightly higher, but the sharpness is inconsistent. Sometimes the XR is sharper, sometimes the SE is sharper, but again, it's not too obvious. Now the iPhone SE triumphs over the XR when it comes to portrait selfies. The XR literally focuses on my face and tends to blur out the lower part of my hair. Edge detection wise, both front cameras aren't that good. When it comes to night selfies, the bokeh effect on both phones isn't any better, but the iPhone XR is slightly darker and lacks clarity. Unlike the iPhone 11, the iPhone SE and XR don't come with night mode. This greatly affects their low light performance. Both aren't that great, and in this low light shot, you'll see that the eyes and nose of my cat is much sharper on the iPhone SE. Now looking at the next picture, you'll see that the iPhone SE overexposed the sign, while the sign looks much clearer on the iPhone XR. However, the iPhone SE takes brighter and slightly sharper night shots overall, so if I had to pick one, I'll still go with the iPhone SE. Even on video, the iPhone XR is redder in terms of skin tone and is slightly darker. The iPhone SE performs better at stabilization at 4K videos, but if you want the XR to be better at stabilization, it's better you switch to 1080p. The iPhone SE also has better dynamic range when it comes to the rear camera, but when I switch to the front camera, the results reversed. On the front, the iPhone XR has extended dynamic range at 30 frames per second videos, but the iPhone SE doesn't, which is why you'll notice that the sky on both videos are overexposed, but you'll still get to see a bit of the building on the XR. One interesting thing though, the iPhone SE shoots wider angle as compared to the XR, which makes it better for video calls too. In the end, the iPhone SE is better than the XR overall, and I believe the next generation Smart HDR and the A13 Bionic chip are huge factors that contributed to this. Plus, the iPhone SE is more affordable than the iPhone XR at 1,999 ringgit. But wouldn't it be nice if you can get it at an even lower price? Well, you can with Digi, the sponsor of today's video. With just 68 ringgit per month for 24 months, you can get the new iPhone SE and Digi's postpaid plan with 0 ringgit upfront payment and 0% interest rate. You'll also get double the internet quota and unlimited calls. What else could you ask for? Check out Digi's website now to get yourself the brand new iPhone SE. Now, I said that we'll be checking out some Spigen cases for the iPhone SE, right? Ta-da! We've got 3 cases today. The Slim Armor CS Jet White, the Liquid Crystal Quartz Glitter, and the Tough Armor Gunmetal. I've already talked about this in my previous video, so I'll link that in the description box if you haven't seen it. My favorite this time is the Slim Armor CS Jet White for one simple reason. It's really practical and great for keeping cards or even cash at the back of my phone, so I won't need to bring my purse with me all the time. If you want to get these cases, there's a Taobao Global Carnival happening on Lazada from June 16 to June 18, in which you can get up to 30% discount on Spigen products. Today's the last day, so make sure you check it out before the discounts are gone.
That's it for our video today. Both phones are pretty cool, but if you had to pick one, which one will it be? Let us know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to click on the subscribe button. I'll see you next time. Bye!